I swear, y'all, it gets crazy when I'm trying to do multiple things at once. It's like you're doing something on one website, you're playing a video game on the side, you're listening to music on your phone in front of you, and then you still keep remembering this very day. By the time I'm recording this, I don't know how long in the future I'm going to be sharing this on social media, but as of today, it's December 21st, 2024, and I realized earlier today that it is now the 1 year anniversary, surprisingly, of the day I finally lost my virginity. I know, it's kind of weird. It was something I never thought would ever happen to. And I wanted to finally reflect on this because the reason I'm waiting to release this is because it's going to have to come out after my coming out video. Because I'm not going to post it before then because of what I discuss here. Now, I have to be a little bit careful about specifics here, just because, I know how the YouTube system works and everything about the certain matter and verbiage that I use, so I gotta be a little bit careful here. So, the fact that that this didn't happen until I was 31 may be a little weird, because I know a lot of people usually have this stuff done by the time they're in their early 20s, because that's when people are social, they're getting out, they're enjoying their lives, because you can drink and have a bit more freedom compared to when you're a teenager and everything. But the fact of the matter is, the reason that this didn't happen any sooner was because the opportunity just never came along. Plain and simple. It's a lot of people, they keep trying to give advice saying, oh, you gotta go out, you gotta find somebody, you gotta go to this place, you gotta do this, do that. Something involving me that I don't think people realize is that I've been stuck in this rut for the last 11 years now. As of it wasn't 11 years by the time this whole thing happened, but by this point it is when I'm recording this. When you're stuck in this monotonous rut where you're stuck on third shift, you haven't had much of a social life at all since you started at your job, it's hard to picture yourself doing anything outside of this cycle that you've been stuck in for years on end. It's hard to picture yourself having a social life when you've gone years on end without having one. You have a hard time picturing yourself having any level of intimacy in your life when you've been waiting so long just to have your first time having it. But I want to take you back to last year to finally give some context leading up to this. So in the summer of 2023, I joined this app called Boo. If you've never heard of it, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening have never heard of it, but it's one of those social media websites. I think you can get it on your web browser, but it's mostly a social media app. That the visual of it kind of reminds me of a blend between Tinder and Facebook in a way, where you've got your profiles that appear on there. You can swipe right if you like them, swipe left if you don't. You've got this search feature where you can search up posts based on a hashtag. So with these topics and everything, like food or video games, art, etc., etc. You can create your own posts or stories. You can find these certain categories and everything on posts, that'll appear on a timeline of sorts. And then you can also check on this other section where you can see who sent your friend requests, messages, stuff like that. One of the big things I do really like about this app, and I'm not sponsored by the way, this is just a personal experience thing, that you can actually have on your profile after you take this quiz and everything, you can learn what your personality type is, besides introverted, extroverted, but also if you're a logical person, a genius, etc., etc. It'll have whatever that kind of overall personality type of yours is right there on your profile, which I think is a great feature. Have your personality out there and kind of learn what kind of people you might or may not be the most compatible with based on that right on the forefront. So it doesn't have to be just based on what you see in somebody's bio in terms of interest or their own personal description, stuff like that. So I'm going to take you all about summer-ish of 2023, because I came across the app just because of a recommendation on the App Store. Nothing was really going on. And out of all the apps that I've ever used in order to try to get past the friendship zone or anything, in terms of somewhat dating apps, they can be used for friendships and also some dating, but in terms of ones where you can put yourself out there almost like a dating app, this was the one rare one out of all the other ones that I've ever tried over the years that actually got me any results. The only other one would be Friended, but that's not really a dating app, but still, in terms of meeting somebody and having a connection, this was the rarity. So in the summer of 2023, I got a like and matched with Kevin. Now, if you've been on my Instagram and you saw posts from somewhere around the spring, summertime of 2024, you know who I'm referring to. Or if you've spoken to me personally. Kevin, and it's gonna be tough for me to talk about him a little bit because by the time I'm recording this, I haven't heard from him in about a month. And that's just a whole can of worms, but he messed with me. And things to know about Kevin is that he's 9 years older than me. He's also got a nerdy personality, which is a kind of personality that I can get drawn to because of my own, like myself being a nerd in a way. He's majored in psychology, so he's been in the therapy type of field, among other things in his life. So he matched with me, and I remember one of his profile photos, he had that Millennium Ring. If you've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! And you remember the character Bakura and his Millennium item, you know what I'm referring to. And, he and I were talking, he knew a little bit about wrestling, but not much, which, I'm completely fine with. He's more familiar with characters compared to anything else. And he was, talking everything, and this was, I think this had to have been before I released a video talking about Red, and, my whole breakdown and everything, and he eventually saw that video when I did release it, so he heard my whole story and everything, and how that was affecting me during that time. But, we were clicking and everything, talking, and all that stuff about personal interests, and I remember even during Thanksgiving time, he was trying to give, food recommendations for, seasonings for, turkey, because he knows his thing about cooking food and, flavor and everything, so I'll give him props on that one. And, we were just talking for a few months, and he was initially wanting to meet up a bit sooner than we did, but I was holding off because, nerves were kicking in. It's when you have somebody that wants to meet up for the first time, you get nervous because you don't know what to expect in reality. So, finally, December kicked in, and there was no delaying this, of finally meeting up for the very first time. He knew all my struggles. He knew that I had no clue what intimacy was by that point at all, on any level. He knew the stuff with Red. He knew some other personal stuff that was going on during that point. And there were other things he would find out later on down the line. So, the specific date I'm going to now go over is December 21st, 2023. The day it all went down. Now, I remember this day for other reasons that also kind of lead into this. That morning was the last day of work before the holiday season, and one of my coworkers had the audacity to say, you need to get laid. Well, later on, those words would come back to haunt her, because I think she kind of regretted saying those words because of what would happen that night. So then that night, I remember my grandfather and I, he wanted to go to the grocery store to get groceries, and first we went to Burger King to have dinner. And then afterwards, he decided, we'll get groceries the next day. So we get back home. Kevin's talking to me, because at this point, he was living 30 minutes away from me. So he's hitting me up on the app. It was either that or Discord, one of the two. He was hitting me up, talking, he wanted to finally meet up and everything, and finally he broke me down. I'm alright, we'll finally meet up. So he had to come to my house because, it's winter time. I'm not good at driving during the winter season and everything. I've driven before and got in an accident, so driving in the winter is not ideal, and we only had one vehicle by this point, so he decided to come to the house and come get me. My grandfather did not know about this, and I had to tell him that, hey, I've known Kevin from the wrestling shows, which was not true. Course. So Kevin got me, we got in his car, and he was driving a blue Kia, which at this point he doesn't have anymore because he got in a little accident months later, so he doesn't have that car now, which is a big shame because that car brings certain memories now. But I remember he decided we wanted to drive into town, and we were going to first stop at the parking lot of a Barnes & Noble in town. And I remember we were talking about Red. He was trying to give me advice in terms of, when it comes to referencing her, trying to give her the nickname, I think it was, Fondue. I don't remember if it was from, a character from, Chowder or Phineas and Ferb or something to try to give, a spin, a kind of nickname for her that won't bring pain, because I still can't address her by her first name because of the memories there. But he wanted to go with the name Fondue, which is kind of weird, because, knowing my brain, the only time I think of the name Fondue is when I remember those cartoon sketches from Kablam of Ickis and Fondue or whatever that sketch was that happened with the Kablam. But I remember as we were pulling into getting close to Barnes & Noble, I remember sitting there in the passenger seat and my right leg was shaking with nerves. Because like I could sense what was going to happen that night because like we were talking about it a little bit in private, like in private messages and everything. So it's like I knew nerves were kicking in by how my right leg was acting. So initially things were going to happen in the parking lot of Barnes & Noble, but like we were feeling that we might get caught because like there were still people there and everything. So he decided to go across the highway and he wanted to get a bit of food from Panda Express. So we got the dinner there. And we were also like, while he was eating, we were still laying back in the car, chilling, talking, everything. And we were thinking we were going to get done there, but then it's like, hey, there are a ton of cars here. Why don't we go to a bit more secure location? So we relocated one more time. So we went a little southwards to the parking lot of a Spring Hill Suites hotel. Stayed there in this car, got in the back seat once we got in the parking lot on the east side of the hotel. And I still remember this because even though it was like cold out and everything, he opened the roof of the car. It's not like a convertible, but like those moon roofs or sunroof, whatever it's called. I know it's not a skylight because those ones are thinking of what those openings were like for sunlight and everything when I was living in a trailer park back in the day. But he opened up the little roof in order to get a little cooling in there. So we got to the back of the car, and this whole encounter, like all this went down from the first time we got in the car until we finally got home for like several hours. And I know my coworkers would tease me saying that the first time when you finally lose your virginity, it's gonna be quick because you're like those nerves are gonna kick in. It's just gonna be like premature ejaculation. Surprisingly, and I'm being dead honest, like I'm swearing on my grandmother's grave when I tell you all this, that did not happen. There was no quickness there despite all the nerves and anticipation for all this. We got in the back seat, and I'm trying to be careful of my verbiage here because, again, I know how this YouTube system works. With what you say can affect your, not just the monetization, but in terms of like getting your content pushed out there. We got in the back seat, and I still remember it was like red boxer briefs that I was wearing, and I still got them. Got in the back seat, and he told me to get a little more comfortable, so it's just like, took my jacket off, which I'm always wearing, of course, got my pants off, and like the nerves, like I said, were still kicking in and everything. And he started to fondle me, of course, down there, got my underwear off, and of course, he's got his mouth there to try to finally, like, lighten me up and everything. And, like, that was going on for quite a while. Like, no joke, that, like, a lot of work to try to get me to climax. Wasn't working at first. Like, I was getting fully excited and everything, but couldn't reach that point of climax. So after a little while, he decided, hey, let's just take a break for a moment. Because, like, we could tell, like, it was a lot of work and just trying to ease up a little bit. So there was also points where he was cuddling me, and then I remember he and I were sitting across from each other. Like, he was on the left side of the car, I'm on the right side. Just face to face, and he started to rest his thumb on my lower lip and chin. He was like, you've never been kissed, have you? And I just told him flat, I was like, Kevin, when I said I have been missing out on all this intimacy stuff, I am not joking. And then immediately, just without hesitating, boom, he planted one on me. And this went on for a few seconds, then all of a sudden, like, the nerves really kicked in so hard that I started to get nauseous. So I opened up the door, like, part way. He's like, go ahead, take your time. Like, he could tell, like, the nausea and nerves were kicking in so hard. So it's like, I opened up the door, like, a little bit, head down, like, between the crack. Because, like, I opened up a few inches for the car door, just trying to catch my breath, calm myself down. Thankfully, I did not get sick, but just, like, having to calm myself down there. Just, like, breathe, let the cool air in a little bit more. Because, like, also getting the door in case I did get sick. Thankfully, I didn't. Took a few minutes. And then finally, when I calmed down, I was like, okay. Close the door. And he decided he wanted to cuddle a little bit. And cuddling was also something I had not done by that point. And it felt a little weird knowing that my first kiss also was like brought in some nausea feeling in there. He was laying back, I was laying in his arms and everything, and then after a little bit, I both felt and saw his arms reach around my waist and start opening up my pants again. And I was like, you going for another try? And he's like, do you want to get this done tonight or do you want to wait? And I was just like, I have been waiting my entire life for this night. I do not want to wait. I want to get this done tonight. He was like, alright, so sat up, undressed myself again. He got to work, of course, doing this pretty much the same stuff as earlier. I can't remember if I was like also helping like stroking in a way with myself. But then finally, after a while again, with work and all that stuff to stimulate me and get me through all that, finally it happened. And I remember like he wanted me to moan and like be loud and everything, like don't hold back. Part of me was still holding back, though, because I could see through the windshield on the opposite side, on the east side of the building, there were, like, one or two guys coming out having, like, smoking their cigarettes. I don't know if there were people there that wanted to smoke in the outside and not smoke inside and have an issue with, like, kind of making it dirty in their rooms and possibly getting charged afterwards, or if it was, like, employees coming out there for a smoke break. But I was trying to make sure we weren't going to get caught, because, again, you have that opening there in the top of the car, okay? But finally, after a while of work, finally hit the climax. Boom. Happened there in the back seat. I'm breathing heavily during all this. And I remember, like, leaning back. My right arm was just on my forehead, just breathing heavily and everything. And finally, when that all finished, he was grabbing me there. And the audacity of him. He quoted Trish from the last scene of the 40-Year-Old Virgin, because he knows that's my favorite movie, and he quoted her directly saying, whoa, you're officially not a virgin. And I wanted to say something, like laugh and everything, is like the fact that he brought up that line in the movie was just like stunning to me. But I was just so caught up in everything, like I could not even speak, because I was just breathing heavily and everything from finally experiencing this. I was just finally trying to collect myself. And I know, like, he then self-gratified himself as well to get that out of his system afterwards right next to me. But then I remember he was, like, still cuddling, like, after we got dressed, he still cuddled me more, kissed up beside my neck. And finally, like, after a little while, like, again, this was within the course of several hours. No joke. Because like this was late into the night. Finally, after a while, we finally got back in the front of the car. He brought me back home. And right before I got out of the car, I do remember sitting there in the passenger seat, and I looked at him, and I was like, Kevin? He's like, yeah, and said, thank you. Like, I was trying to hold in any emotions, because, like, I know people are saying you don't want to get emotional after some kind of sexual encounters, and I was trying so hard to hold it in. But, like, I don't think it was, like, emotional for me just because, like, oh, that moment meant a lot. Like, no joke, but, like, it was also kind of getting emotional just knowing that finally, after 31 years, if I finally had my first ever sexual encounter. Like, it was something I legit never thought was ever going to happen, because, again, because, like, how long I was waiting for. It was just, like, it was such a relief to finally have that happen. So then, came home, went to bed, and I was actually lightheaded for several days after this. Like, it was nuts. And I remember the next day, I remember two specific things out of this. I remember Kevin hit me up on Discord the next morning, and he was asking how I was, and I was like, I'm feeling lightheaded, but still good. And he's like, how did you feel after that? I'm like, relieved, no regrets. He's like, thank fuck. But then I remember, like, 'cause, like, I was out with my grandfather at lunch. Like, we usually eat at a specific restaurant. Like, he at least does on Fridays. The only time I ever attend is, like, if I don't have work. So, of course, I remember not having work at that time, because otherwise I would have been in bed sleeping. And I just love when my phone's constantly going off. He's, like, I remember I was on Discord, and it was either Discord or Instagram. I know it was, no, not Discord. Snapchat and Instagram, because I was hitting on my friend Theo on Snapchat and Ashley on Instagram. because I wanted to break the news to both of them that it finally happened. But first, I wanted to test the waters, asking them if that technically counts losing your virginity, and they both say yes. Because I think doctors also say that because it technically counts as being sexually active. And they're saying as long as there's a climax, it counts. So I finally broke the news to them after they confirmed that. They're both completely, like, ecstatic about that because they knew I'd been waiting so long for this. So, like, they wanted the details, and that also led to me coming out for the very first time. Which was not easy. Like, I did not know how Ashley was going to react. Because, that type of subject matter never really came up in our conversations. I knew Theo was going to be completely acceptable of it, because he's also in the LGBTQI plus community as well. Like, that got the ball rolling of finally starting that whole coming out process. It wasn't an immediate one where I was just like, yes, I can finally open up to everybody. It became a process. Like, that was like the starting point. But it's so crazy to think that night finally happened after so long of thinking that it was just never going to take place. And is it a shame that, like, things broke down eventually with Kevin, like, just a few months ago and everything? Yeah. And that sucks. It's like, it always sucks when things aren't the same with somebody anymore, but, life happens. I mean, would it be cool to talk to him again? Yeah, but, again, I'm not keeping my fingers crossed, because you never know how life is going to be. But yeah, it's like, it's wild to think that finally happened. And like I said, people were thinking, oh, you're going to get too excited the first time, it's not going to last long before you suddenly explode. Well, neither that time nor any other time when things were happening with me and Kevin did I ever have that problem, which was a major surprise. Like, I don't know if it's because nerves and anxiety kicked in while these things were going on, but it helped me last. Just like, yay! For a rare time where I can say a positive thing about anxiety. But yeah, that's the whole story. I mean, if anybody wants any kind of clarifications on any things in all this, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to reply in the comments. But hopefully that covers everything. So let me know y'all in the comment section below. I know, again, I'm trying to be careful of certain verbiage because I know how the YouTube system will work in terms of, pushing out a video based on subject matter, but I'm trying my best here. So anyway, thanks for watching / listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out and good day, everybody.